Is it okay if I don't use the mic? I don't really like talking in the mics. Thank you guys, and super, super proud of y'all. This is such a special moment to have, and take it all in. We'll beat Duke tonight, and you guys will enjoy one of the best experiences that you'll ever have. So a couple years ago, I got the opportunity to meet Francis in our first kind of association together and working and trying to figure out what it means to be an advisee and an advisor. I've been here in Chapel Hill and worked for the School of Medicine, so I've had other people that I have had in terms of academic advising that I've dealt with, but this was really a first chance for me to sit down and really dive into what it meant to provide kind of a mentorship model for someone who just wanted to ask a lot of questions and see what life could bring forward. So I think one of the things that I want to say about this is that over the past 2 years that I've got to know Francis, she's given me more than I've given her, and I can honestly say that in a context of when we have both been in our most trying moments, in times where it's really seemed difficult or hard to find some good advice. You have a really honest person on the other end who's receptive and willing to listen and to work through things together. So to me, that's the most important thing that I've learned about our program together.
Well, I'm Francis. Amir has just lied to you when he said that I've given him more. But yeah, so I'm a senior scholar. I'm studying environmental health science, doing minors in chemistry and biology. And someday I hope to be on the same path that Amir has forged so beautifully. The thing that I keep coming back to when I think about my Morehead experience is that the relationships within this community have just been the most beneficial thing I could have ever imagined for my college career, and not something that I even think I prioritized when considering college. And this relationship is probably within that the most meaningful thing that has been a part of my college experience. And I want you to consider that. I think this mentorship program is very unique in that you have like a champion, like you have someone who is willing to see you at your lowest lows and take you to highest highs and connect you to the meaningful people in their lives too. And so, yeah. Jaya.
Great, do you want to start? Sure. So I'm Lakshmi Gowder. I'm the class of 99. A member, I'm not the entire class. Megan reached out to me in August of 2020, so height of pandemic, nobody has really left their house for a few months, and asked me to be a part of the mentor program, and had indicated that they had very carefully selected me for Jaya, and they are, I mean, if they would matchmake the entire class, I mean, I think that you guys would be very well off because they did a very good job. Jaya and I have spent probably almost every month conversing in some fashion since then, and it has brought a lot of joy to me to be able to talk to her about her life, her dreams, her aspirations, her questions, her concerns, and in that process, very similar to Amir, I have found myself sort of doing the same thing, reflecting in that same way for myself, for my son, for anybody, any other youth that I run across. I feel like it has really provided me for an opportunity to think about what I'm looking for and the ways in which I can help other people really figure out what they're looking for. So it's been a very, very meaningful part of certainly my last 2 years, and I hope for years to come.
Yes, could not. Oh, yes. For the building.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Okay. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So yes, hi everybody. I'm Jera Mishra. I am a senior studying global health with minors in neuroscience and Hindi. And yes, could not agree more with Lakshmi. When I think after our first or second meeting, it was when I had come back to school post-COVID, and I talked to my mom, and I was like, I think she's gonna be at my wedding. And I told her, I'm like, I don't think we even talked about academics or career or anything that I thought we would talk about the very first meeting. We actually both started crying.
Yeah.
So it's been an emotional ride, but it's been, like Francis said, one of the best parts of my Morehead-Cain experience. And I think just being able to talk to someone about so many things that go beyond academics and taking the MCAT or even going to med school or whatever it is that I want to do. It's been so wonderful to have someone to talk about relationships in life and just struggling through college, because it is a wild ride, and especially with COVID, we went through really similar things despite being in different phases of our life. So yeah, it's definitely been a wonderful part of the last 2 years and my college experience.
Hey, I'm Brian Strong. I am class of 2000. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and based in New York City now. I have the distinct pleasure of being a part of the Morehead-Cain Scholarship Fund Board, and I chair the Alumni Engagement Committee, which means that I sit back and watch Megan do all the work and take credit for it, and also co-chair the Triennial Alumni Forum from Morehead-Cain as well. And a lot of the work that we do in alumni engagement, we have created a Black Scholar and Alumni Engagement Group, an affinity group, and so much other stuff that we're doing within the committee. We started to realize, particularly over the last few years, that if we didn't have a really strong sense of the kind of core goals and challenges of the scholars themselves, then anything we're doing as an alumni engagement group or trying to create connections among us and networking is probably off the mark, right? So my conversations with Kenny have only sort of helped accelerate my understanding of what's going on here in Chapel Hill, made us a lot better at the work that we're trying to do at the alumni level. And we don't have a lot of structure around our conversations. My job is to be an open book and to be really honest. I think far too often, unfortunately, our LinkedIn pages sort of jump you guys from one job to the other, and what they don't tell you is about the times we tried to start a business and we failed, or we got fired because we didn't agree with X, Y, and Z. And what I want to do is start to create some honesty in the conversation between us and the scholars and the young alums about kind of the different parts of this journey that happen. And so that's just kind of my role, is to try to be an open book and create some track for honesty. Kenny?
Hey everyone, my name is Kenny Ochoa. I'm a freshman. I'm from just outside Toronto in Canada, and I'm studying computer science with minors in business and entrepreneurship. I guess with my mentorship experience, I think it's kind of been like setting the vibe, just be something chill and someone who I can talk to about different things that are going on in my life. And I think something that's been very valuable for me just to kind of bring what's going on in my life and different things I'm working through, whether that's balance or different parts of my life, extracurriculars, or being far away from home, and just talking about different things has really been a valuable experience to have. And I think even Brian, just like hearing about his life as well, kind of the work he's going through and any transitions that have happened has just kind of been very insightful for me to hear about, and just to kind of think about my life in the future and where I might want to be when I graduate from UNC.
Thank you, panel. Fantastic. So it is now open to you all. Any questions you have? I see a hand up already. Very good.
Hi, I'm Noah. Thank you all for being here. I guess this is a very broad and open question. I would love to know, we've already heard some great advice today, and just any piece of advice that you have for us as we enter these college years and how to make the most of our time with Morehead-Cain.
We'll repeat the question. Whoever takes the question.
Who wants to talk about first?
Yeah, sure.
We had a lot of conversation about this with the fund board earlier. It is, from my perspective, right, it's a time to take the time and space to do potentially some, what we'll call like a little bit of shallow work in some different areas, right? Summer programs and discovery funds and internships are a really great way to figure out what you want to do in your life. They're also a really great way to figure out what you don't want to do in life, right? So I would say that if you have kind of cast your vision in one specific direction or a specific track, I would ask you to sort of offer a little bit of latitude to yourself to create some space to explore other areas, right? Even if you wanted to be pre-med since you were 5, just take the opportunity that a really vast sort of liberal arts education like this school offers to you to go and explore some different things. And also, the program is designed to not ask you to try to compress everything into 15 hours a semester for 4 years. These funds, these summer programs, these gap years, these things that you have access to are to, give you the opportunity to go out and sort of explore and try and fail and get things right where you can. So there's time for depth later. I'm 43, I'm still trying to find it. But take some time to try some different things while you're here. And even in that first few years getting out of school as a young alum, like just give yourself the grace to figure it out. That would be my thinking.
Do I have to press something? Okay. So just piggybacking on what Brian said, I think the big thing for me is not a little latitude, a whole lot. Just use these 4 years and the opportunities that Morehead is going to afford you to do the most out of your mind things that you never imagined yourself doing, because even if you come right back to where you thought you were going to be at the end of these 4 years, every experience you have, everything that you do allows you to make connections later on in your life, whether it's to another job or another human being. I still think about the people that I met, the things that I did. I'm a physician, and so I see a wide variety of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds and religious and ethnic backgrounds, and there are still things that I experienced as a Morehead that allows me to connect with those people in a way that I wouldn't be able to if I hadn't been a Morehead and done things that were outside of my comfort zone. So even if you end up doing exactly what you thought you were going to do ever since you were 5 years old, all of these experiences will make you a more complete person than if you hadn't had them. And that, I think, is the crux of what makes this program so incredibly amazing.
Just to add to what both of you have said, I think these 4 years may be the most concentrated time of personal development for a lot of people. That's something that I found. And I think kind of maybe going into college with that perspective might give you some room to grow. I think especially the Morehead-Cain gives you an enormous wealth of opportunity, and sometimes it feels like if I don't do this crazy thing and this crazy thing and this crazy thing all in a row, like I'm missing out. And I've done a lot of those crazy things all in a row, and sometimes at the end I'm like, wow, I need some time to let those things change me. Like I need a couple weeks just to like sit with that and like, what did I learn? Like I don't have to jump to the next stone immediately. And I think I've learned that towards the end of my college career. So I think that's something that I would say.
Could I just one last comment on that one, is allow yourself, there's no doubt, I know that I'm in a room of just people who excel and do really well. And you will come to a point in your college career that failure is going to happen. Allow yourself to fail, learn from your failures, use that as a stepping stone in life. One of our first conversations that I had with Francis was talking about how I took the MCAT 3 times before I got into medical school. And did I really think that I was going to be a doctor, And it made me a better person, made me really value every single day I go to work. I'm really happy, I'm really excited to do it. I think my relationship with my Morehead family helped me along the way. I just had dinner 2 days ago with 2 of my classmates, and they're all in different paths, and we learned a lot from each other. And we had a lot of fun going on summer trips together, but it also allowed us this opportunity to learn from each other, use each other as a support system. And now, like, it was 2002 when I started, 20 years later, we're still really close friends. So just kind of approach it from an openness standpoint.
All right, next question.
Yeah, to everyone who's graduated, how have you seen the foundation and the school change and grow since your time on campus?
Oh my gosh. So I'll start with this. I mean, it's gotten just absolutely better every year. I think the one thing that I've enjoyed living just maybe 3 blocks away from the foundation is I get to walk past this building almost as much as I want. Every day I get to walk by and see how big this place has become. Just the sheer number of scholars that have come through now compared to where we had before, because we've gotten better at being financially solvent, makes this experience so much more diverse. The fact that there's opportunities, I think, that you guys are going to be afforded, and I hope you take advantage of all of them, that we didn't have whenever we first started, I think just shows that the foundation is very easy for them to sit back and say, we've developed the oldest merit scholarship in the country, we have a playbook that gives us Rhodes Scholars, let's not change it. But they're testing each other every single day to say, how do we make this better? What's the most meaningful way we can engage with people across the board? So that's, for me, the perspective that I have living away from it and getting to see the program. And I truly, honestly think that every year it gets better and better and better, and your legacy will improve the class behind you.
No, I agree. I think, how's the program changed? I think that it's just gotten better. The summer experiences, the foundation, just the logistical layout downstairs where you guys have space here that is your own, I think is huge. I think it really would have helped contribute to more of a cohesiveness of classes. I think our class probably is a lot less or a lot more disjointed than Jaya's described her class to be. But at the same time, I think that this year, as I look out, it makes me so happy, like the diversity of the group of people in this class, that was not what I had in my class. And so I think that in and of itself, the experiences that you bring with you, who you are, who your family is, what society expects from you based on where you've come from and how you're going to knock them out of the park, that is how you guys will build your legacy. That is how Morehead-Cain will be better for you. And I think that is very powerful.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I also, having done some work again with a number of the alums and getting to know them over the last few years. Well, first of all, I want to say that my experience, no joke, has been as good, if not better, as an alum of this program. And that probably is down to me and my level of engagement and feeling of empowerment by the group that's allowed me to work with the program. But if you talk to Harvey Kennedy, who graduated in the 70s, we joke about it as the come to the foundation, grab your check and your cookie and go back to campus, group, right? Whereas now, the evolution of it, from what I can see now, is that when I come back, there's a real community humming and breathing in here every day. Kids are studying, hanging out, and I'm somewhere between Harvey and where you guys are as class of 2000. But it's really inspiring to see that the foundation is more than that check that Steve cuts you, right? Not just the extra programs and the spending money and all that, but I think a stronger sense of community that's being created by you all in here, and that I think just it helps us understand a little bit more about what we need to do to serve you all when you all are connecting and also speaking up about the things that you need, right? Because you're communicating with one another.
Thanks, alumni. That's great.
Hi, I'm Kayla. So a lot of the conversations I've had with my peers has definitely been about imposter syndrome. And as you've mentioned, being an open book and honest about accomplishments and failures, I'm curious about what all of you have to say about the topic.
I should go last because I'll probably talk the longest. I'm just kidding.
So I'll say just really quickly a most recent experience. So kind of birthing from what your question was, one of the very first things that Francis and I talked about was the resume, right? And going through the process of putting your best foot forward, the gaps that are not on the resume, you don't see the fact that there's failure after failure after failure, or trying something new to learn about yourself, to make yourself better. There's so many things that go through that. And I agree, it's very difficult being in the ages of 17 to 22 to understand how that impacts you going forward. I think one of the things that is a lot more prevalent now than I think when I was starting is that we talk about it. We really, it's okay for us to go in front of you and say, yes, I was a Morehead-Cain Scholar class of 2006, and guess what, 2007 and 2008 were really hard. And we had to work really hard to get to the goal that I thought I was gonna get to, and I saw lots of failures. And a lot of humility along the way to say, it's okay for you to think that you're gonna go down one path and shift to the other. And that's, I think, one of the very first conversations that Francis and I had.
Oh, so I'll tell you the last time I had imposter syndrome, it was sitting over there on that red couch right there. While you guys were watching this video of all those people, and I was like, why in the hell did they ask me to be on this panel when they could have asked any number of those other people? And it's because I live driving distance away from here and was really itching to get away from my family, so that's why they asked me. But it is a very real imposter syndrome, absolutely. I did a blog post about Jay and I's mentor relationship, and I inserted it in there when Megan sent me that email about all the things that Jaya was looking for, and I was like, and the first 3 people said no? I mean, I have imposter syndrome because I work as a private practice physician, and I think, am I doing enough? But I went to go see a speaker the other day, an author, talk about making changes in your community and how you do that. No, you don't have to be the governor of it's great to be the governor of North Carolina, but also you make waves by affecting the people around you and then watching them go and affect the people around them. And that's how you make waves, and that's how you make changes. And you might never really realize how much of a change you've made, but I guarantee you that number 1, you're not an imposter, and number 2, you will always feel it to some extent. And that's okay, because it will continue to challenge you to be a better person and to do more. And if that's what it does, then, bring it. That's fine.
Grab the mic.
Oh, yeah.
You can go ahead.
I don't talk about 2 things, both extracurriculars and academics. So I know a lot of you have probably read your peers' bios and stuff. I did the same thing before I came in here. It's always like you look at them, it's like, am I that same person? Do I measure up on that things? And I think like what's important to see is just like that you're here for a reason, and that whatever you're doing is accomplishments for yourself, and that's very much what you need to be doing. I think even when I came to campus, it's a lot of times hard to see like what your peers are doing and then try to like measure up in a sense. But I think kind of realizing what extracurriculars you did before, and then just kind of coming to campus and doing what you like to do and what you enjoy to do, and not trying to measure up to say your peers or anyone else or a senior or a junior, trying to go along that own path, but kind of charter your own path, I think is very important. And then as well on the academic side, there's different things around your Morehead-Cain scholars, but also just other Carolina students, and some of the classes will get tough, and even for me, like some of those quiz grades and test grades will come back, and you're just like, I don't know, why am I here? So it feels like that. But what I can tell you is that it's really all about giving your best and seeing how you can improve as well. But just knowing that you're here for a reason, and everything you're doing, you're gonna do that well, and just do it to the best of your ability.
Yes, totally agree. I think the question of imposter syndrome is a great one, especially when you're sitting in a room full of amazing people, and within the Morehead-Cain community, just even hearing about the other things other scholars are doing on campus, or maybe with their Discovery Fund and whatnot, it can be kind of overwhelming sometimes, and you just feel like you're not doing enough. But I will say one of the best pieces of advice I got before coming to college was that you just have to run your own race, and all of you are here for a reason. And the Morehead-Cain Foundation and staff, they want you to do your own thing. They want you to get outside of that box, get outside of that comfort zone, do whatever unique combination of majors and minors or summer experiences, like just go that extra mile and do something different, because you don't want to do the exact same thing as the person sitting next to you, and all of you are going to do incredible things, but they really, really want to push you to learn about yourself in those experiences. And so you will probably have imposter syndrome. I'll probably have it for the rest of my life, but I feel like I have such a strong community backing me up, and just giving me confidence to make those decisions about those different experiences.
Yeah, I just want to quickly add, by the way, I love your question. I think this is such a great question. Failure is super important, and I don't want to present this illusion that I've always felt perfect about even this relationship. Like our very first meeting, I was so anxious about presenting myself correctly. I was like, this is a leading physician in my community. He has no time. Like, I've got to make it worth it. And I had like rationalized to myself. It was like, okay, I'll explain like this drop in GPA by this experience, and it's useful for me. And like, I really went through all of that. And then immediately it was like, Amir was like, he wanted to know about who I was, not like my GPA or anything to do with my resume. So I think coming in with an open mind that like you will have failures and they will be so beneficial and meaningful to you. And also beneficial to your peers, like talking about them. You might have to be the first person to share, but it'll be meaningful.
All right, we'll go 6 for 6 here. a hot question. Yeah, I think one thing that I'll say, and I give credit to the foundation for this, and particularly our previous leader here, Chuck Lovelace, who encouraged me to consider that any level of contribution was enough to have merited the investment that they made in me, right? And to define contribution in society for myself. So everything from, chasing a cure for cancer down to making sure that your kids get off to school okay and that you've got a thriving contribution through your family in some way, right? Like, are you putting something positive back into your community? And that helps me kind of like shape and right size myself, I guess, a little bit in terms of like what my, what's actually sort of expected for me when I sort of shoot for somebody else's idea of success, I suppose, on paper. And so, I think that's kind of what I'll say about it. I think the only other thing too is that I guess, I've been around just, in my bio, I've been around some fairly heavy folks, incredible athletes, and others in my current role. And I've gotten to know some of them, and I can promise you that they're dealing with it too, And so that's, it always helps to know. I would just say too, like, it's got a name now, imposter syndrome, right? Like, so we all know to talk about it, we know what to call it now. It seems like it's fairly recent, at least for me. And I would say find not only the strength and courage to talk about it in forums where you feel comfortable and open like this, but also make sure you got somebody that you're really close enough to in your life that you can get into all the details with safely. So, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria. Something that has been discussed a lot over the whole process of Morehead-Cain has been the plethora of opportunities that are available as a scholar, but as mental health becomes a bigger conversation, what advice would you have to avoid burnout and really truly strike that work-life or academic life balance?
I mean, when you figure that out, you know.
Kenny asked me this question 2 weeks ago. He was like, how did you? And I said, I didn't. How did you figure out how to balance? And I said, I didn't. I played soccer my first 2 years here. Was trying to establish a thriving social life, hold this scholarship down. It wasn't always pretty. And so, I think I don't know, man. I needed a lot of experience to try to get. I'm working on this every day. I don't even know how else to put it. I would take the moment now. This kind of gets back to that, like, what you learn over time and what you gain. I think we really do have the space right now to not worry. Like we have a few other time pressures and other things on us now that we're of a certain age, but got the time and space to kind of figure it out now and create a little more balance yourself. So just be easy.
I'll try and be a little bit more practical in my answer here and just say two things that I would recommend. 30 minutes and a therapist, and not together. So not necessarily those two. It's not 30 minutes with a therapist. It's two different things. So seeking help with a therapist when you feel like, and I even heard someone earlier today say, "Oh, my therapist," and I was like, yes. When we didn't talk about stuff like that. I'm 44 years old, and it was more like, my therapist. Right? So like it's a very different, and that's great. That's amazing. That's so wonderful that you pay someone to only listen to you talk. I mean, who doesn't want that? That's a wonderful thing to have. You get to talk about yourself. So therapy is great, but the 30 minutes, if you don't want to go to therapy, if you don't come from a culture that values that, that's also something that you're going to have to overcome, or because as a South Asian, that's not something that we typically do. But so that might be something you have to overcome. But 30 minutes, everyone has it. And I'll tell you, my 30 minutes is 7 to 7:30 every morning exercising. And if my son or my husband want to talk to me, they will be very sadly mistaken if they think I'm giving up that 30 minutes. So 30 minutes of just finding something that you want to do for you, whether it's go outside, get off your phone, be on your phone, but whatever it is, but just find something that speaks to you. It will evolve with time, but burnout is very, very real, and recognizing it is very important. But the small steps that you take on a daily basis and the fewer excuses you make to not make time for that, I think are going to be key to your success at UNC, as a Morehead, and just in life, in my opinion.
So I use this analogy a lot with our residents, and I actually used it in a lecture here just 2 weeks ago, but there's a finite, like imagine yourself as a penguin trying to get on an iceberg. There's a finite amount of penguins that can fit on an iceberg before one of the penguins has to fall off. Like, know your limits of wanting to be who you are. And that may be something that you want to try out, and it makes something else go to the side, and that's okay as you're kind of going through the sphere of trying to see who you are as a person. And as you go through life, I think these things change. So like, number one tier right now for me is my daughter and my son and my wife. Like I'll do whatever to put them first, and then kind of work through what else makes me happy. And sometimes work will jump ahead of another thing that I was doing with my friends. Sometimes my friends jump ahead. I mean, it's all variable. So it changes in life. The most important thing, taking that time to realize what it is. 5 to 5:30 for me is like the primo time of my 30 minutes that I get to enjoy doing whatever I want to do before my daughter comes and tries to ask me to watch Peppa with her.
Right.
But it's those things that really make a difference. So find whatever that is: exercise, reading, talking, meditating, sitting around, watching TV, whatever it is. Just find something that is meaningful and try to engage in it.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And from the scholar perspective, Morehead-Cain does an awesome job of supporting that. So we are given 5 free sessions every every year. Yes, 5 free sessions per year. I just started using them this year, and that's been a big topic within our mentorship relationship has been mental health and like letting myself feel the way I'm feeling and not having to put up this strong front that I'm like type A perfectionist, like everything is great all the time, especially when you get such a wonderful scholarship like this and get to come to UNC, you feel like you can't let that guard down. And so with those 5 free sessions, there's also scholar advising, and that has been such an influential part of my 4 years at Carolina, and just coming into Julie's office, or Montez is here too, and just breaking down or even telling them what's going on, whether you did really bad on an exam and you don't know what to do, or one of your friends is going through something really hard and you don't know how to help them. Just being able to have advisors who you can talk to about things like that, it's so valuable. And so Morehead-Cain does a really awesome job at understanding the mental health issues that students have, but also addressing them and helping us through that.
Another question?
Sorry, what are the sessions?
What session?
Oh,
Therapy sessions.
yeah, Julie, are you here? Julie, do you want to talk about?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We contract with a service called ComSci, and it is a way that you can like call a number, and it's a referral service, and it will put you in touch with a therapist like here in North Carolina or like in the community you're from, and it like automatically funds like the first 5 sessions with that person. There's also like similar services available for the university as well, in addition to the like counseling and psychological services at the university, but we like wanted to have an additional way that students could connect with a therapist outside of the university.
Right, so that the foundation covers the cost of that, and then and it's you can call for it's something like, there's a little bit of way you can sort of shift it, because you can call for a different issue and go and sort of start over. So it's kind of a nice.
Because you get around.
Another question from. Yes.
So obviously we have a lot of difficult decisions to make in life. How has the relationship with either your mentor or who you're mentoring helped you make those decisions?
I'm going to start this one real quickly. So 2 years ago, when the campus was trying to figure out how to respond to COVID, I stepped in right after the fall of 20 semester when all the students were sent home and went virtual to figure out how to bring students back in the spring of 21. I wouldn't have been able to come up with a plan if it wasn't trying to work through the process and work with trying to understand the student's perspective of how to do these things. Like, probably one of the biggest projects I ever undertook, really hard work, but it wouldn't have been without Francis's insight to help me figure out how to do these things and components to make the life of the people that I was trying to serve better. So without a doubt, like, that's one very, very, very concrete example of how our relationship has personally helped me in a really difficult time.
I think for me, I've been kind of grappling decisions of making, where to put my time outside of my classes. And I think that's a part of decision all of you will have to make in terms of what clubs and what extracurriculars you want to be a part of. And even the conversation Brian was talking about, even I'm thinking about right now, moving into my sophomore year, next year, kind of figuring out which clubs I want to keep, which jobs I want to keep, and how I want to allocate my time, whether I have more time for social life or other things like that. So I think just talking to your mentor about that can be very valuable, and for sure it's helped me kind of make those decisions and kind of figure out where I'm going to time.
Yeah, there's been a lot of hard decisions that Lakshmi has helped me through. I'm not sure if any of you were on the Instagram Live, but I talked about this, and I guess summer of 2020, in the midst of COVID, I'm sitting at home, was supposed to be in London for my Morehead summer and was taking organic chemistry 1 and 2. So rough summer, but also amidst COVID, there was so much racial injustice, and I had been in Greek life, had really enjoyed being in a sorority on campus, but then that summer, with everything happening, there was just a lot of controversy over it, and I completely understood where it was all coming from. Very extremist and exclusive principles that Greek life has been based on, and especially at a predominantly Southern and white university. It was interesting being a person of color in Greek life, and I was just really on the fence about what to do. Do I drop out completely? I had really meaningful and wonderful relationships with girls in the sorority. All my role models were seniors who had just graduated, and so I didn't know what to do, and I called Julie in advising, and I called Lakshmi, and I talked to a lot of friends, and I decided not to drop. And I actually decided to become president, which was kind of, yeah, little different. Y'all are gonna make me cry. It's been a tough year, but it's just one of those things that I think Morehead-Cain scholars have. It's that drive of character, it's that leadership to want to have your voice at the table, even when it's hard, even when people are probably going to judge you, even when there's an abolish Greek life movement going on campus, and you don't know how people are going to feel about the position you're taking. But I talked to Lakshmi so much about what to do, and I felt like I would really regret it if I wasn't doing something to push this organization that I care about in a forward movement. And so, yeah, she's been so helpful through many things, but I'd say that's the biggest challenge that she's helped me through.
I'll just add super quickly. As someone about to apply to medical school, there are a lot of boxes that I felt like I've needed to check throughout my 4 years. And a lot of them are necessary and will be helpful for me in experience. But I think there have been a lot of times where I've tried to figure out, how do I fit into these boxes? How do I stay true to myself or make something meaningful that I still need to accomplish it? And I think Amir's really helped me find my internal motivation and my pure passion for things. One of the first questions that I remember him asking me when I was struggling a year ago was like, what brings you joy and fulfillment? Which is a really big question. And so just like having someone to promote reflection. Like I probably wouldn't have just sat down for 2 days and been like, what does bring me joy, you know? And I've based decisions off of that. Like my gap year plans, I had a lot of advice to go do this like global health fellowship in Malawi, and it's a great experience for so many people. And I just kept having this like feeling rise up that like, I don't know why I don't feel like this is something that I'm just so extremely passionate about. Like this would help me, but I don't think that it's for me. And so Amir really honored that and like taught me to respect that own sort of motivation. And yeah, I think, yeah.
All right, we have time for one more. Who's got a question?
My name is Adil. I'm a very hungry person. What's the best spot to eat?
So this is about 95% of our conversations ends in like food / chocolate exchanges / anything. So I have a PowerPoint that I give to the residents every year that lists all of my favorite restaurants in the area, and I will be happy to share that with you.
Sure how to follow that, except I will say a lot of the spots are gone that I used to love. However, last night at 9 o'clock at night, I discovered insomnia cookies and took home a whole lot of them and did not feel so great this morning, but it was totally worth it.
What do you got?
I would say for sure, check out Four Corners. I've been there like probably 5 times. That's saying a lot to a freshman, but they have some of the best wings and burgers. I had a burger last weekend there, and it almost changed my life.
I do have to put in a plug for Antonio McBroom, who's somewhere probably in the room. So not exactly a non-franchise unique choice, but go to Ben & Jerry's for my man Antonio. Is Mama Dip still open or closed?
It's open.
I mean, Hook,
Yeah.
Line, and Sinker. I think Mama Dips. Good old soul food, just like straight down the middle.